Picture this: a world where trade wars erupt overnight, tariffs skyrocket, and global supply chains crumble. Sound far-fetched? Think again. The rules-based trading system we've relied on for decades is under siege, and the future of international commerce hangs in the balance. Welcome to the Economy Unpacked daily YouTube channel. From Wall Street to your street, we share the world of money in a clear way. Today, we're diving deep into the World Trade Organization, or WTO, the backbone of global trade that's now facing an existential crisis. Why does the WTO matter? Simple. It's the referee in the high-stakes game of international commerce, preventing trade disputes from spiraling into political or even military conflicts. But in an age of increasing protectionism and outright trade wars, the WTO seems powerless. Can it survive in this new era of conflict? Let's rewind to understand how we got here. After World War II, nations came together under the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, or GATT, to lower trade barriers. Fast forward to 1995, and the WTO was born, expanding its reach to cover services, intellectual property, and crucially, dispute resolution. Its mission? To grease the wheels of global trade, settle arguments fairly, and boost economic growth worldwide. And for a while, it worked beautifully. Global trade tripled since the 1990s. Developing nations got a seat at the table, and even China joined the club. But today, the WTO is under siege from all sides. Take the U.S.-China trade war, tariffs on steel, technology disputes, semiconductor restrictions. The WTO couldn't stop the escalation. Even longtime allies like the EU and US are at odds, with the Airbus-Boeing subsidy battle and steel tariffs flying in the face of WTO rulings. The harsh truth: when major powers decide to ignore the rules, the whole system starts to crumble. The real knockout punch came in 2019 when the WTO's dispute settlement system collapsed. The U.S. blocked new judge appointments to the appellate body, essentially leaving the organization toothless. Without a functioning appeals process, nations can simply ignore rulings they don't like. It's like a soccer match with no referee. Chaos is bound to ensue. This breakdown has far-reaching consequences. Countries are now bypassing WTO arbitration altogether, preferring to slug it out with unilateral tariffs, sanctions, or one-on-one deals. The WTO risks becoming a mere symbol rather than an actual enforcer of fair trade practices. But it's not just about arcane legal procedures. We're seeing a rise in protectionism and trade conflicts that affect everyday life. Tariffs, quotas, and sanctions are being wielded as political weapons. Just look at the sanctions on Russia, export controls on cutting-edge tech, or agricultural quotas that can send food prices soaring. These trade tensions are wreaking havoc on global supply chains. Remember the semiconductor shortages that made it impossible to buy a new car or PlayStation, or the scramble for rare earth minerals. Even our energy and food supplies are caught in the crossfire. And it's not just the big players feeling the heat. Developing nations are increasingly forced to choose sides between U.S.-led or China-led trade systems, undermining the very idea of multilateralism that the WTO was built on. Speaking of developing countries, they've got a complicated relationship with the WTO. On one hand, it gives smaller economies access to huge markets and a legal framework to challenge unfair practices. But critics argue the system often favors the big guys, with poorer nations lacking the resources to fight their corner effectively. Take Africa, struggling against agricultural subsidies from wealthy Western nations. or Latin American countries locked in disputes over commodity exports. Southeast Asian nations walk a tightrope, balancing export-driven growth with compliance to rules largely set by richer countries. So, what's the future of the WTO in this turbulent landscape? There are calls for reform, reviving the appellate body, creating more flexible trade rules, and modernizing to cover digital trade and climate-related issues. The WTO could play a crucial role in governing cross-border data flows, digital taxation, and even green subsidies. But it's not operating in a vacuum. Regional trade blocs like RCEP in Asia-Pacific, CPTP, PA across the Pacific, and USMCA in North America are rising as potential rivals, pointing to a more fragmented, multipolar trade order. We're left with three possible scenarios for the WTO's future. 1. Revival. The organization regains its strength through meaningful reforms and renewed commitment from major powers. 2. Marginalization. The WTO continues to exist, but becomes increasingly irrelevant as regional blocs dominate trade negotiations. 3. Fragmentation. The worst-case scenario, a fractured, unstable global trading environment with no overarching rules. The bottom line, the WTO must adapt or perish. Its survival hinges on successful reform and cooperation among the world's economic superpowers. Without this, it risks becoming a ceremonial body, losing its crucial role in shaping the rules of global trade. So, we leave you with this question. Will the future of international commerce remain governed by mutually agreed-upon rules? Or are we heading towards a world where raw economic and political power trumps the idea of fair play? The answer will shape not just how we trade, but the very nature of our increasingly interconnected world. As we wrap up today's deep dive into the WTO and global trade conflicts, remember that understanding these complex issues is key to navigating our economic future. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay up to date with all our economic insights. Until next time, this is Economy Unpacked Daily, helping you make sense of the dollars and cents that shape our world.